So in this video, I want to rank probably every single client acquisition method that exists for agency owners right now. I want to tier list them out for you here. There are some that are extremely effective right now, and there are some that are just terrible and you should immediately stay away from going into 2026. If you don't know who I am, my name is George Clements. I'm the founder of a multi-7-figure agency called Paid House, and I'm posting videos about how to scale your agency primarily with paid ads, but we will be talking about organic as well because organic can complement paid ads. Let's jump into it. Now, as you can see here, I've split the methods out into paid versus organic. There are probably methods that I haven't included in here. Feel free to comment below and I'll give you my thoughts on them if I've missed them. But these are the main ones. Now, as you'll see, some of these, you might have been expecting in the paid section to see Google ads, Meta ads, YouTube ads, whatever. That is not really how you should think about paid strategies for agencies. All of these platforms just drive traffic, right? And this is what this comment is saying. These platforms just drive traffic. It's more about the funnel that you're using or the offer or whatever it is. That is the mechanism, okay? And so that is what we're focusing on, all right? Well, whether you spend $1,000 on Google ads or Meta ads, it's still going to some kind of strategy. It doesn't really matter. You're just driving traffic. Now, with that said, you should use Meta ads 99.9% of the time. It's the cheapest traffic. It's the highest quality traffic. It's the best targeting. I rest my case. You can watch previous videos on my channel for more explanations of that. Now, let's jump into it. So let's start with the VSL funnel. So if you don't know what these are, I'm going to explain them as we go. Now, the VSL funnel is basically where, very simply, you can use a VSL funnel on organic. You just need some kind of method to drive traffic to it. But basically, you basically just drive traffic to it. I'll make this a little bit bigger, and you essentially have a page with a video on it, okay? And this is going to be typically, it ranges. People have varying opinions on what works. It can be a 5-minute video. I personally think the shorter the better for B2B, especially with attention spans these days. But some people have like 40 to 60-minute long VSLs, you know what I mean? But some kind of in-depth video going through exactly, what the problems, who you're serving, the problems of that person, the solution, your mechanism, your offer, and your, everything else, okay? And so that is really a VSL funnel. There's going to be a headline here, there's going to be a subheading, and then obviously whatever is below the funnel is up to you. But these are really the main components, obviously with some kind of a CTA here saying, get started now, book a call, fill out the form, whatever. Now, from the VSL, typically you're going to click apply. There may be some kind of an application form in the middle, but there's going to be some kind of method where you can obviously book a call. You might have the calendar embedded on the page or whatever. And then you're going to have some kind of a thank you page after that, after you book the call. That is typically how a VSL funnel goes. Now, why would you run a VSL funnel? Well, you would run a VSL funnel because this VSL is going to do a few things. You can kind of think of it as like a YouTube video, right? Like it's a nurturing mechanism that you put on the page to warm up visitors. They're going to learn about your offer. They're going to spend some time with you on that video. Okay, there's this kind of common trope that, someone needs to have watched 7 hours of your content before they buy from you, right? That's not technically true always, but it's a good frame of mind to think about. The more someone spends time with you, the more likely they are to buy. That's why webinar funnels, which are, I will get to in a second, but they involve 60 to 90 minute long videos and presentations, work so well because you're spending more time with your prospects. Now, I think VSL funnels are fantastic. I'm going to put them into the S tier. However, there is a common mistake that people make with the VSL funnel. Again, whether you're driving traffic to them from paid or organic, and that is really you don't understand what to say in your VSL, okay? And that's a big problem. A lot of people will just throw up a VSL based on what they think their prospect wants to hear. This is stupid. What you want to do is you want to test what messaging and angles work best with your prospects, find the best one, and then build the entire VSL more or less around that because it's clearly proven to be the most effective. For example, if you are running ads to e-commerce business owners and you test 3 different ads, one about profitability, one about exiting the business, selling the business, and one about, decreasing risk or something like that. So you've got like a desire, a circumstance, and a pain point, roughly. And you see that the desire of wanting to be more profitable way outperforms the other two, like over multiple tests, then it's probably true that your VSL should really focus on that to get the best results. So that's where I see a lot of people go wrong with the VSL funnel. Now, let's move on to the opt-in funnel. So an opt-in funnel is really just basically, where there's a page sort of before the VSL, which is going to ask for a name, email, phone number. That's really the core difference, okay? it can be different. That doesn't have to be a VSL. It could be an opt-in to a long form sort of copy page. I don't really see that very often. It's mostly opt-in to VSL. This used to be incredibly popular in sort of 2024. The popularity has significantly decreased because there's quite high friction by doing this, okay? Friction is not necessarily a bad thing, but it is in this case because people are becoming more and more sophisticated to marketing strategies. People know what you're doing when you do this. They know that they're going to get called. They know that they're going to get their email spammed when they have this page thrown up in front of them. And it really prevents people from getting to the meat and potatoes, which is the VSL or the headline or the offer. They're not really seeing that until they get past the opt-in funnel. So that is quite a big problem. On paid traffic, if you can be getting opt-ins for expensive as $100 these days. I mean, unless you do something really cool or different, you're getting very expensive opt-ins, which means that the only way to make this work is to have a dialed-in setter team. Okay, so that's someone who's phoning the opt-ins within 5 minutes of them opting in, double dialing them over multiple different days, following up with them in the CRM. That is the only way I see opt-in funnels working. And the stupidest thing I see is that people are doing opt-in funnels and they don't have a setter and no one's dialing the leads. Maybe the founder says, oh yeah, bro, I'm dialing the leads, but he's dialing them 3 days after they've opted in. This will not work. This will literally make your entire marketing process less effective if you do this. So you don't want to do that. And so for these reasons, I'm really going to put opt-in funnels in B tier. They can work if you have an absolute lethal sell team, but I've not run into many agency owners who do. And so for that reason, I would recommend just doing a SAN VSL funnel. Next, we have the IG profile funnel. This one's quite a popular one. This is where you basically would run ads boosting your IG posts to your profile, and then you would post stories and reels to basically nurture those new followers. So to be clear, they're follower ads, sorry. And you would nurture these new followers with stories and stuff like that and try and get them to book a call. Now, I think this is good. I'm a big believer in organic, by the way. I know I talk a lot about paid, but a well-documented and implemented organic strategy works fantastic. I think this works a lot better for coaching, to be honest with you. And you obviously, it goes without saying, you have to have a very good content strategy to make this work. I can't help but feel that, if you're going to spend $3,000, let's say, on IG profile ads, you're probably just going to get better results by spending that $3K on a really good VSL funnel. But some people would disagree with me. Personally, I've never tested this. It's just my thoughts are that, the content strategy on the back end has to be so good to be able to justify this spend and make this work. And it can also have quite a long sales cycle. Someone will follow you and they'll need to consume content for several weeks or months before they actually book a call and buy. Whereas with a VSL funnel or a webinar funnel, you're really just condensing that buying cycle down so that you can make money quicker and make that money that you're spending back a lot quicker. Okay. And typically it's guys that are selling how to do an IG profile funnel with an IG profile funnel that do so well, because the fact that it's a self-fulfilling funnel makes it that much more effective. I've not seen too many people really doing it for, like a completely unrelated service-based business like email marketing or anything like that. But this is separate from just IG short form content, which you're just posting to kind of get views and attract people organically. This is specifically a paid strategy. So I think it's good. I think it's decent. I'm kind of split between A tier and B tier. I think it's A tier for info. I think it's probably B tier for agencies. I think there's just better ways to get calls for an agency or direct service business. With info, you kind of have to jump through a bunch of hoops to try and convince people to buy your thing because you're essentially selling thin air. With an agency, you have the palpability of a clear service. So I don't think you need to do this cute stuff. I think you can just be very direct. Cool. So next is a webinar funnel. Again, this is a bit more popular in the info space where, you're really trying to convince people of your methodology, etc. It's very commonly used in the info space, less commonly used in the agency space, but I think that's a mistake. I think agencies should use this. And I think if you do it well, it's extremely, extremely effective. Again, the point of a webinar, and I'll show you how it works if you don't know how, is basically you're going to run paid ads you can do it with organic as well, again, but most commonly used with ads. You run ads to some kind of a registration page, okay, where they can sign up for your webinar at Thursday, 3 p.m. CET. They're going to register. And then you're obviously going to have some kind of a thank you page here, which you can actually put a book a call on here if you want to sort of expedite the process, or you may not want to do that. And you may just want to have more kind of nurturing assets, videos they can watch in the meantime, etc. Again, just to increase content consumption. That's the whole goal of this, is that you are trying to get people to consume and spend as much time with you as humanly possible so that when you come to sell them, they are extremely warm and ready to buy. That's a kind of a concept that a lot of people don't grasp, is how important that warming up is when it comes to cold traffic. This is why I find that webinar funnels are not really necessary for organic, because they've been watching your long form YouTube. You can just send them to a VSL, or even send them to an application, or send them to whatever. And they're going to be warm enough to go through that and be, like live, present, ready to buy on the sales call. But that's another topic for another day. Once they've hit the thank you page, obviously you're then going to have the webinar event. This can be pre-recorded or live. I hear that live works better these days. So you can literally have a live presentation which you are running, and people, like, there's going to be like 80, 100, 150, whatever, 60, whatever people on the live. And then you're going to basically do one or two things. Now, you can basically sell a product directly on a webinar, but it has to be pretty much under $1,500. Otherwise, if it's more expensive than that, then people are going to need a call to obviously have the confidence to buy. So what you're actually trying to do is book calls with people, which seems kind of backwards. It's like, why are you going through all this effort just to book calls when I could just run the ad to a book a call straight away? And again, the reason why we do this is to warm the prospects up. Okay, and I'll show you how this works. So you have a live, and then you basically see call to action at the end of the live to book a call, and there'll be 30%, 40% of people will. Well, it could be more, to be fair. I mean, if they stay to the end, it can be as high as like 50%. Some percentage of people that stay to the end, there's obviously going to be a drop off during this live webinar, but a certain percentage of the people that stay to the end will then book a call with you, okay, on a different day, like a one-to-one call with you or a sales rep. It depends on how many people you have. Now, again, the people who will show then up to these calls after being on that 60 to 90 minute live with you and watching all of that are going to be extremely easy to close. Your close rates will be probably like 40% here. Okay, and so if you do the maths on versus running ads straight to a VSL, you're going to have a lower show rate here, running ads to a VSL, and you're going to have a lower close rate as well. Okay, you may even have a lower offer rate too. And so basically, if you do the math, sometimes webinars can actually outperform DSLs. I really like webinars. I think more agencies should run them. They're a bit complicated, as you can see here. There's more steps to make it go right. You've got to be pretty good on camera as well, pretty good at presenting. But if you can do all of those things, I think they are absolutely S tier. I would love to see more agencies trying these. And I think as we get more into 2026, people are starting to get tired of the VSL funnel. And I think new acquisition methods like this are going to start to make a big comeback for agencies. Even things like challenge funnels and stuff like that, which I'm not even covering here because there's so much more for info products. I'd love to see how that would work for an agency. Next is the application funnel. Okay, so this is even more simple than the VSL funnel. This is where you're basically running an ad to a page and there's no VSL. All there is an application, okay? And then obviously a headline, a subheading, and maybe a little bit of copy down here, but that's it. So you literally don't even have the video. It's just the application, okay? On a VSL funnel, they're watching the video, then they're hitting apply, most likely. If you don't have an application, that's a problem. But that's a story for another day. Whereas here, it's just the application. Okay, so this is where you're going to get pretty much the coldest prospects. I mean, maybe other than running an ad to literally a lead form or something like that, or like a Calendly page. These prospects are gonna be ice cold. However, you're gonna get more of them. You're gonna get a lot of calls from doing this. You're gonna get more calls than you're gonna get from doing a VSL funnel. And you're gonna get a cheaper cost per call as well from doing this. However, what you need to make sure is, again, you have a pretty lethal setting motion here, because you're going to get a lot of people that come and they sort of partially submit the application, but they don't book. Whether maybe that could be because there's low calendar availability, or they just drop off, whatever it is. And even the people that do book, because they're colder, we want setters to phone them to actually warm them up, okay? And make sure that, they're qualified, like just 15-minute phone call, walk them through a few things. Hey, you put 50 to 100K a month in your application. Will you work 50 or 100? Like, find out more about their agency, feed that back to the closer, or their business, sorry. Feed that back to the closer, and then you're going to have a more productive call. You can also do advanced things like grading the applications. So, like 1 to 3, for example, 2 and 3 will go, and each grade will go to different closers when you have a big enough team. And potentially even grade 1 won't even go to closers at all. It may just go straight to setters and they can qualify them. Anyway, this is a bit advanced. I won't go through too much of this in detail. I think though this is a great choice I think this is S tier. And I think you actually should start with this until you know what VSL to run. So I think almost all of you should actually start with an application funnel, spend $3K a month on that, get data, get learnings, get understanding, see which ads work really well and which don't. And then from that, and after 10, 20 sales calls and $3,000 of spend on some ads, you're going to know pretty much which angle is going to work. And then you can build an actually validated VSL around that. So next is a lead magnet funnel. So I'm sure you've heard of this before and seen this before. This is where you're basically going to land on a page, which is like, hey, get my free training now. Training is going to be like an image, training, headline, subheading, and then there's going to be copy, and then like an opt-in here with main email, phone number, something like that. And obviously the resource is free. So, you're going to run an ad to it. They're going to land here. They're going to opt in. And then obviously they're going to have a thank you page. And on this thank you page, you're going to pretty much aggressively probably have a video and some kind of book a call function here as well to try and get them on a call and expedite the process again. Okay. But obviously most of the calls that you're going to get are from the emails. And again, the setting motion that you're going to have alongside this on the back end, okay? Because, you want to have a pretty aggressive setting motion, okay? And you want to obviously know your conversion rate so you can say, all right, out of, X amount of opt-ins, this is how many people book a call, right? So you want to have your opt-in rate, which ideally should be around like 30%. And then out of those people that opt in, hopefully you're booking, I don't know, maybe 1 in 3, 1 in 2 it's been a while since I've run a lead magnet funnel myself personally. Now, again, what I would say about this is that these are great, but they're kind of good for pouring fuel on the fire, so to speak. I wouldn't really want to run this first before I run a VSL or an application funnel, because a VSL or application funnel, it's just a more direct way of booking a call. And that's going to be easier to pull off. Here, again, you've got to make sure that your email setting motion is really good. Your lead magnet is really good, so the consumption is there. It's not just people like opting in and then never using it. So there's a few more moving pieces. I think this is great once you kind of maxed out or feel like you've maxed out your VSL funnel and you just want to pour more fuel on the fire. So you launch a separate lead magnet funnel to get more emails. You can then retarget these emails, by the way, these opt-ins with ads. So it's quite good for retargeting. And it's just kind of like a nice extra thing to have. So I'd probably put this in like A tier, I would say. A tier. I'm going to be nice. A tier. Okay, again, obviously, lead magnet funnels are something you very commonly see on organic. And again, I guess there's a bit of a different differentiation. Obviously, like YouTube, it's more of like a traffic source, not necessarily a funnel. So that is kind of the difference between paid and organic here. You could send YouTube traffic to a lead magnet funnel. You could send YouTube traffic to a VSL funnel, etc. But yeah, it's fine. Just ignore it. Anyway, then we have a low ticket product funnel. So this is quite similar to a lead magnet funnel, except it is paid. One of the key differences is that you're going to have basically a couple of upsells. So you're going to have an order bump. So basically that is when they go to buy the low ticket product. By the way, the product's going to be anywhere from sort of like $29 to $99. Typically seeing it on the lower end of sort of $29 these days. When they go to buy the product, there's going to be sort of like 1, maybe 2 checkboxes where they can buy something that's, say, another $99 or $197 or $297. And that's just going to basically get the AOV, so the average order value, at that little bit higher. And then once they've bought, there's going to be more of like a main upsell page, I would say. So you're going to probably have a whole nother upsell page, which is really focused on like, that bigger order bump. And then you're going to have kind of like the book a call page here, where it's typically like an implementation call to implement the low ticket product. All right. Now I could do a whole video just on these funnels because these funnels are super complicated and super complex. Again, typically you see them more often with info products. The whole goal here is, again, that consumption and also the warming up of prospects because they actually pay you. Okay, so it's this psychology of, well, once you paid a little bit of money, you're more likely to pay a lot of money. And obviously the whole idea is obviously upselling into high ticket through, again, emails, setting, getting these implementation calls booked in, yada, 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 yada. Okay. Very effective. Again, the idea here is that you're basically getting free marketing. So you want to be breaking even on this. You're not trying to make money off of this low ticket product. You're trying to break even on your ad spend. So you're trying to get, if you're selling a $99 product, you're trying to get a CPA of $99 or maybe a little bit. It's going to be a little bit higher than that, but roughly you're breaking even, which means that you can just get thousands of customers through this thing. And a lot of those are going to obviously upsell. So it's kind of like free marketing, which a lot of these other strategies don't have. It's quite cool, but again, very, very complex. For that reason, I would probably be tempted to put it in B tier. A lot of people will disagree with me on this, but it is very, very difficult to pull off, okay? Finally, we have lead forms. There's a few variations of this, like lead forms. I would also kind of say it's basically using that Meta's native lead form. The problem with this is it just sucks. Like, it's just not good. You're optimizing for leads instead of booked calls. Yeah, it's just very, very low lead quality. You would have to have like a monstrous setting team basically to make this work. I'm going to put it in C tier, potentially. Probably even D tier, to be fair. All right, cool. So let's jump on to the organic methods. Okay, again, you could argue that some of these are more like traffic generation rather than funnels, but I would say that cold email is kind of a funnel, cold DM is kind of a funnel, etc. So we'll just roll with it. Now, cold DM, I mean, I'm very like anti cold outbound, to be honest with you. I think it's just a quick. It's something that you would do up to maybe 20 or 30K a month, and then it's something that I think you should stop and then take every single ounce of that time and energy and money that you put into that and put it into paid ads. A lot of people will say, oh, you should never turn it off because it's free. Well, what isn't free is the time investment and even just the headspace investment of having thousands of emails being sent out every single day. It's just not, because like there's a lot of tech battles that go on with it. There's a lot of inconsistency. Everything's always changing. Deliverability tanks when you try and scale, so it's not super like scalable. Now, cold email can be really worthwhile if you're trying to go up market. I will say that ads, once you're trying to sell to businesses that are doing like $100 million a year, ads become a lot less effective because the CRO of a $100 million a year company, or the CMO or whatever, or the head of marketing is not going to click on your VSL ad and book a call. You're going to need to do cold email or some kind of networking or strategic partnership. I have seen cold email be very effective for that, but most of you watching this will be agency owners selling to SMBs, so companies doing 1 to 10 million a year, even 1 to 20 or whatever. And for those people, I think cold email is probably one of the worst ways to get clients, okay? You just have to jump through so many hoops, and paid ads is just a way more effective way of converting cold traffic than cold email is. Now, cold DM, same thing, honestly, except that it doesn't work for $100 million a year businesses. So I would say it's even worse than cold email for that. Like the amount of message requests I get these days, I have like 30 to 50 message requests like a day. It's insane. At least with cold email, I'm going to probably at least read the subject line. With cold DM, I just scan past it completely. And now you might be asking, well, George, if I'm just getting started in the agency space, what do I do? I think you should do organic content every single day. You should post as much organic content as humanly possible. And I think you should do something called Dream 100, which is not something I came up with, to be clear. But the concept of Dream 100 is basically where you would go and make a list of your top 100 clients that you would like to have. And then you can go and basically make them like free tidbits and resources and stuff. So if you sell like YouTube channel management or something, you would go and make them like a free thumbnail or a free video script. And then you would obviously deliver that through some kind of email or DM or whatever. I think this is going to work better than just like a cold DM, which is like, hey, we booked XYZ, 500 calls, book a call, It's going to work better. I think. Do I like it? Like, is it worth doing past even like 10K a month? No. My general philosophy is that you kind of need to scramble to 10K a month. There's no like pretty or efficient way to get to 10K a month. You just need to basically get, as many clients as you can get a hold of, learn as much stuff as possible, post a ton of content about what you're learning. Eventually, you're going to start to get some subscribers. You're going to start to get some followers. That's going to make the whole process a lot easier because you're then going to have some authority. Get to 10K a month that way. And then as soon as you're at 10K a month, start running some ads to an application funnel. You're going to get calls way, way easier. Your whole job should then be just to set those calls all day, get on the phone with them. And then once you're at sort of 20K a month, you've got enough cash flow to kind of breathe. And then you can really start investing into ads and content more aggressively. So that's what I would say about that. Now, when it comes to content, YouTube organic is, without a doubt, S tier. Even though I talk about paid ads all day, I still put a lot of effort into YouTube organic because not only is it a great content mechanism for getting clients, but it also nurtures your paid ads. Okay, so the thing is, when people book a call with you, they're probably going to Google you or search you up in some way, or you can even just send them some of your YouTube videos via email or via on the thank you pages, and they're always going to probably find your YouTube channel, okay? And the good thing about YouTube, again, going back to this consumption thing, is that people are spending a lot more time with you. They're watching a 20, 30, 40-minute video, whatever. That's really going to build that rapport and nurture them way more than like a tweet is, you know what I mean? Or a freaking 20-second reel. So yeah, YouTube is absolutely elite, and you should be doing it whether you are running paid ads or not. Next, X or LinkedIn content. I think this is great. I post a lot on X. I've got quite a few followers over there. The only problem with X though is that like it's so short form that it can be quite difficult to actually, convert anyone. I kind of like X as like a real top of funnel platform, which you can then try and get people into a newsletter where you can then get them to have more consumption. And so, yeah, I don't think it's actually great for like directly booking calls, and those calls are going to not be very warm when they do book because they've only seen a couple of text-based tweets. They haven't even probably heard you speak. So yeah, for that reason, I would say it's not a good standalone acquisition method. It is a good, like, you can get a lot of views and a lot of like momentum on X though if you post a lot. So yeah, for that reason, I think it's definitely something you should do. LinkedIn, I bucketed them here because you can really cross-post your X posts onto LinkedIn if you just lengthen them out a bit. LinkedIn does work a little bit differently. It's typically like longer form, less volume, but it's the same thing. Again, like, it's you want to really be sending this traffic to a newsletter, a lead magnet, something where you can grab their emails and then obviously nurture them. Okay. Short form content. I absolutely hate short form content as a strategy. I would put this down in, for B2B at least, I would put this down in like E tier. Reason being is because it doesn't really attract buyers. So if you're posting like these cute little IG reels trying to go viral, yeah, it just doesn't really work that well. I mean, there's if you don't respect my authority on that, you can look at people like Ravi Abivala, who runs systems, scaling the systems. He literally stopped posting on IG because he found that all of his buyers came through long form YouTube organic. So on the organic side, I really just don't like short form content. I just don't think it attracts buyers. It's more like attracting viewers, people who are there for enjoyment. With YouTube, it's people who are there for educational purposes. Upwork and Proposals. I think these are, I hear people getting great results with these. I think it's definitely a level above cold email, and it could be a good place to start if you are just getting started. However, you're really like your Upwork reputation, you live or die by that thing. So if you get like someone who tries to ruin your Upwork reputation, like that's a big problem. And so if you're over reliant on this, I think you've got a very fragile business. They can also, you do have to pay for these, by the way. You can set a fee free and then you have to start paying for them. And it's also probably one of like the lowest status ways to get clients because they're going to treat you like a freelancer and they're going to treat you pretty badly. That being said though, it is pretty cheap to get working, and I have seen some crazy systems with people building out teams for this and sending like thousands of proposals a week, and it can work, but again, it's just not as good as content or ads. Cold calling, again, I think same sort of thing. I would put it probably in C tier. I put it above cold email and cold DM because it's a lot more direct. It's pretty ballsy. It's pretty difficult to do this for any kind of sophisticated buyer, but if you're selling to businesses that are pretty small revenue, local businesses, things like that, it can be quite effective, and you can build out some pretty lethal teams for this. Again, though, it's very time consuming. So if you don't have a boiler room, so like literally a room of people doing just dials, it's just never going to scale. Okay, so for that reason, it's C tier. Podcast, I put this up in like A tier, maybe even S tier. The only reason I put it in A tier is because it's very time consuming. It's essentially like running your own business. Not that I've ever had like some massive podcast, but I used to have a podcast for Paid House, and it's like its own business in itself, trying to find guests and get good guests on and stuff like that. If you nail it though, it's like one of the longest form methods of content that you can post, so people really get nurtured by it. And then obviously that's great because they spend more time with you. They're going to be warmer when they actually book a call. So if you pull it off, it's freaking S star tier, but I don't see many people really crushing it with podcasts. It can be pretty difficult to make them work, especially if they're virtual. People kind of prefer in person. Now, a group or community, I think this is overrated, guys. I'm not going to lie. Like, I think this is like potentially C tier, especially if it's free. If it's free, it's just very like a not engaged community. These are not really buyers. These are people who just kind of like want to browse and get free stuff. I think free is very difficult to make this work. I think if it's paid like $99 a month, it's better. But again, like you're going to have to spend so much time answering questions and making videos and doing all that stuff. Like, again, it's a whole nother thing, but not very much money. And you could be like, oh yeah, I'm upselling people, bro. But it's like, just go direct, focus on the direct client acquisition methods. And I think that'll just serve you better. So a lot of people disagree with me on that one, but that's kind of how I feel. Now, strategic partnerships. I think strategic partnerships are pretty good. This can range from like white labeling to passing clients back and forth on a referral basis. If you run a Google Ads agency, I run a Facebook Ads agency, we're going to trade clients. It could be like joint venture. Like there's a lot of things that can fall under this. I think it's probably S tier. Like if you can pull it off, it's kind of hard to scale. Again, like you can build teams out for that. But again, it can be hard to scale. Events, I think, are awesome. Again, very difficult to pull off. That's why I'd put them in A tier. But if you can pull off an event where loads of your qualified prospects actually show up to it, you're going to crush. And I've heard of people really crushing with it. Again, though, it's just very time consuming, so not very scalable. Okay, I feel bad that I haven't put anything in cold DM in F tier, so I'm probably going to put cold DM in F tier, and then that's the tier list done. I haven't mentioned a newsletter. The reason why I haven't mentioned a newsletter is because I think you should be always doing a newsletter. You should always be sending out emails to people that give you their email. So I'm not even going to count that as a acquisition strategy on its own. But if I was going to do that, it will be S tier because it's very, very effective. All right. I'm going to leave the video there, guys. Hopefully this was useful. Bit of a mix between paid and organic. This is how I kind of rank everything going into 2026. If you enjoyed this, you can get my free checklist, lead magnet, down below for scaling your agency with paid ads, which, as you can see, VSL funnel, webinar funnel, application funnel, these three right here are, the majority of the S tier is paid. Okay. So trust me, paid ads are really the best way to scale going into 2026. Okay, lowest time investment. I'm not even going to get into it. Highest ROI potential, etc. So go ahead and grab that checklist. It's free down below. Other than that, like, subscribe, and I will see you in the next video. Thanks.